You're listening to On the Pole Podcast with your pole sitter, Earl.
Hook to it and just jerk it off.
And outside front row, Derek Carpoletti.
That is shoving the hot dog in the bun right there.
All right, everybody. Welcome to episode 4 of the On the Pole Podcast. I'm the pole sitter, Earl, as usual. And I'm joined by outside front row, Derek. I'm going to welcome him in a second, but I'm not going to waste another moment before I get to it. The big news of the weekend, the big happening, the greatest finish in NASCAR history. This episode is brought to you by the number 99. So yeah, we ran a race this weekend at Atlanta Motor Speedway, and it was an amazing race. That's the consensus from the fans, is that it was exciting. And at the end of it all, Daniel Suarez, Trackhouse Racing, my number one favorite driver, won the Ambetter 400 at Atlanta. And I can't get enough of it. That's why I keep saying the phrasing. That's why I keep saying the branding. That was a moment of a lifetime for a fan like me. I've been waiting my whole life for my driver to win a race like that on the outside. And yeah, so I got that part out. I'm excited. I've watched it 100 times. Derek, I'm going to welcome you to the show now just to kind of balance things out and get somebody in here that's a little less biased. So how's it going? How did you enjoy the race?
It was I'm actually running 3 wide myself. As you can see, I got the 3 wide Battle of Busch going to the finish to start this thing off. But yeah, it was we had talked before the show. I surprisingly had watched all 3 divisions this year. This week I watched the truck, the Xfinity, as well as the Cup race. And the truck race was a truck race. Nothing huge to take away from that. The Xfinity race was on the verge of boring. A lot of just riding around the top. I mean, the ending kind of got good, and the fuel mileage thing made it interesting. But for the most part, the race wasn't really that exciting. So going into the Cup race, I was expecting to see a lot of the same. So I'll be transparent with you. The first stage, I only kind of half watched. And then it kept pulling my interest more and more as I was watching it. And it was more of a distraction to what I was doing additional to the race. So I just said, fuck it. I need to sit down and watch this thing. And I was, from that point on, pretty much around the point where from where William and the front row car got into it going down pit road. From that moment on, I was just like fixated the whole race. Audra was fixing up dinner, and I'm like, if you're not watching this, I don't know what your problem is, because this thing is fucking bonkers. It was they were running they did 4 wide for like a lap and a half. Like, yeah,
and didn't wreck. Like the 4 wide kept moving back row by row. Austin Cindric made an amazing 4 wide pass on the bottom, got the lead, and then Truex just continued to drop back 4 wide after 4 wide. It was a crazy race.
It was absolutely nuts. And then, of course, it came down to, so my wife Audra is a big Ryan Blaney fan. Our dog is named after him. His name is Blaney Dog Carpoletti. And she was commenting to our dog Blaney, going to the white flag, like, Blaney, you're going to win this thing. And I said, there's no way he's going to be able, there's like 30 cars behind him. Any of them could win this race. There's no way he's going to be able to stop all of those runs and all the momentum and all the angles that are coming at him. And he damn near did, with the most wild 3 wide, clean, no wreck finish in a taper space or race and track I've ever seen.
Speaking, some of our listeners were quite interested in whether or not a race like that would change our opinions of tapered space or racing. And I feel like, it changed my opinion. Like, if it's going to be like that every time, that's what I want. Like, the way they were throwing each other down, and trying to get to the bottom and slide up. Like, that's exactly the kind of racing people want to see. It's a hybrid of a 1.5 miles and a tapered space race.
Right.
Unfortunately, the way Atlanta's aging, I'm not sure it's going to stay that way. But that was an amazing race. Like, if it was amazing.
If you don't like that kind of racing, don't even watch.
I literally almost just said that myself.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, it definitely I don't know. I guess like Kyle Larson said, I don't know if I'd want to see it every week. I think
No way.
Atlanta, at least until it changes to the point where it doesn't have this kind of racing, I think it needs to be a one-track kind of thing. I mean, it separates itself completely from Daytona and Talladega for sure, and that's what makes it unique. And NASCAR they're going to want to replicate that formula 8 times a year, which is not necessary. It kind of takes away from the uniqueness of it. But we had mentioned last week how it'd be awesome if it became like the perfect blend between a taper spacer racing track as well as like the slipping and sliding of a 1.5 mile track. And it couldn't have been much more of a perfect blend than that.
Yeah. I don't know if you caught Denny's podcast or not all the way through, but Denny mentions that Goodyear was working with them on trying to get a grippier, softer tire to work at Atlanta. He also mentioned that a lot of times they'll tell them that and they'll test a ton of tires and show up with something completely different. But hopefully they try to move towards something like that, maybe in reaction to the way the track's aging. But it put on a really good show. And personally, just while we're at it, we might as well go ahead and change Texas. Like, Texas is an absolutely worthless racetrack. It's been that way for like my whole life. Except for maybe a couple of years in the mid 2000s, and that's just because cool people were winning it. But go ahead and bank Texas. Like, everything's supposed to be bigger in Texas. Why isn't your race a big ass tapered spacer race?
Oh, so remember when we were talking about doing like unique stuff for the Clash?
Yeah.
If you're going to go bigger in Texas, double the banking and go right. Just actually recreate Tiburon Speedway.
Oh my God. Yeah. Tiburon Speedway would be amazing. That's a great idea. Yeah.
Dude. Oh my God.
Yeah, I'm into it.
I don't know, but that would
time we turned right.
That would make my pants tight for sure.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I'm looking forward to the second Atlanta race that's coming up later this year, because it should be more of the same. The teams are going to know what to prepare for this time. I'm sure the manufacturers are going to have some words, because Austin Cindric played a little bit of a role in that race last night. I'm not sure what he was supposed to do differently if he's trying to get wins for himself and positions for himself. Like, what if he needs those points coming down to the end? But Austin Cindric did everything he could on the last lap to not give Daniel Suarez a push. And he did. He ended up giving him a bit of a push. And the other thing was obviously Kyle Busch taking him 3 wide created a situation where they all slowed each other down. But
so what were you're obviously a big Daniel Suarez fan, and there's not a lot to get excited about most of the time. What were your emotions going through those like last couple laps where he's up in the mix?
Yeah,
and Ross was coming up. He was, he came back from the lap down. He was working his way back through, and I personally was looking for a little bit of bag boys action.
Yeah.
But knowing Ross, he would just get to Danny and ditch him. So, what were your range of emotions for that?
Well, what was it? I believe they restarted that last restart with 5 to go, and I was definitely overreacting from that point forward. Every lap or so, I would criticize something Danny did and be like, "Oh no, there he goes, fucking another one." And then the next lap, he'd continue to get that push and kind of fight Kyle Busch. Obviously, like you said before, Blaney was doing a great job, and the fight was between Kyle and Danny for those first couple laps on the restart, side by side. And so I just kept being like, "Yes!" and I was yelling, and I was crazy. And then I get really down, and my wife, who actually is her nickname is 99, she's sitting next to me like, "He's not out of it yet, calm down." And I've seen Daniel Suarez run up front at the ends of races a lot, and it just feels like one of those things where something was going to happen. I couldn't believe it. I still can't believe it. I'm not over it at all. Like I said, that's a win that I've been waiting for my whole life. Like, Tony Stewart had a lot of cool wins, but that was special.
Have you ever?
Yeah,
No,
I thought. We've seen it a few times, I guess.
Nothing like that.
No, nothing like that. Not that close, that 3 wide. And then the guy who the biggest thing is, even as a Suarez fan, I can admit, out of those 3 drivers, he's not the one you expected to come out with the victory, and that makes it so much more significant.
Yeah, look, when they showed the so we were like freaking out trying to figure out who won. At first glance, we thought Blaney got it, but the pylon on the screen said Suarez. And then they went back and showed that slow motion video, and like Blaney's nose creeped into the frame. I'm like, oh, he's definitely got it. But then out of nowhere, the Amigo comes slinging in there right at the very end, and I don't know how he did it, but he did it.
Yeah, I don't either. It was really hard to see Suarez's name jump to the top of the pylon like that, and it was like, oh, they did it, timing, scoring, right? Like, that's the guy. And then, like you just said, they did that thing in slow motion, and you can't even see the 99 car in the first couple of frames. You see Blaney and you see Busch, and they're getting closer to the line, and it's like there's not enough time in this slow motion video for another car to pop in, and he did. Like, it was incredible. And this is the first time in like 15 years where I'm sitting here with a driver that I know is going to make the playoffs, and we got opportunities to try stuff. Like, what a huge win. What a huge race, like, for NASCAR, for Atlanta Motor Speedway, for Trackhouse. Trackhouse has 7 wins now.
Yep. That's wild.
Incredible.
Yep.
I did not root for Trackhouse.
7 wins in, really only 3 full-time seasons with only a 2-car team. That's pretty damn good.
Yeah, absolutely. Including a win with a 3rd car. with SVG, which is also,
I forgot all about that.
Of this decade, of the 2020s decade, and this has been mentioned on Reddit and the teardown and everything else, but 3 of the most significant events in NASCAR, the top 3 of this decade, were Trackhouse racing, with SVG winning Chicago and the Hail Melon, and now the 3 Amigos win.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're right. And I was actually thinking back, like, had we ever really seen a finish like that? And we kind of did, back when they were not doing taper spacer race and they were doing the restrictor plate racing, and they were doing the tandem, and they had that Boyer, Gordon, Johnson weird 6-way going on.
Yeah, tandem. I love tandem racing, so I watch that highlight all the time. And I mean, that finish was obviously close. The tandem racing was obviously going to, have a finish like that come down to it. Obviously, it wasn't as close, but that was a crazy, crazy race as well.
One thing, we're kind of going to jump into like the drivers we wanted to talk about, but let's talk about a team first. I know we didn't even pre-think this, but I was thinking about it earlier today, and it just came across my mind. How dominant is Richard Childers racing?
You mean like in the Xfinity series?
I mean across the board. I mean, it wasn't a Richard Childers. Yeah, it wasn't a Richard Childers truck, but Kyle Busch wins Atlanta. Jesse Love just dominates the Xfinity series, and then Austin Hill actually takes home the wins. And then you have Kyle Busch is clearly the class of the field in both Cup races. Just, not enough talent, not enough KFB in it.
Yeah, I mean, I think the talent's there. He's got it locked away somewhere, trying to act nice for sponsors. You know what I mean? Like, I think when he was at Joe Gibbs, he had this ticket to, like, just be yourself. And that ran out eventually, but
yeah. And it's kind of funny if you think about Kyle Busch and the fact that, like, he's obviously softer now, and he has, like, I don't know if he's being nicer for sponsors, but so when he had M&M's, a candy company, as a sponsor, he was just a raging asshole. And now that he has, like, weed and tobacco products as a sponsor,
and bourbon,
he's just like a nice ho-hum guy.
Yeah. I mean, well, that's the problem right there. Is no one believes M&Ms make you violent. Yeah. But like you said, like,
yeah.
All right, so Kyle Busch and RCR, it's hard to look at them as the same entity. So Kyle Busch won the truck race. Kyle Busch dominated. Well, he was a factor in the 500 and the Atlanta race. But even though he drives for RCR, it's hard to look at that and be like, is RCR, dominant when they have Kyle Busch? Because Kyle Busch is independently amazing. Now, Austin Hill, that's another thing. Like, that was kind of crazy. He dominates all those tapered spacer type races and then just kind of steals this one off fuel strategy. Like, just someone had to win it. And instead of Jeremy Clements or something, it was fucking Austin Hill, I guess, because he just wins every time we come here. I'll admit it. So RCR did technically dominate this week. We'll see what happens next week when we get to Vegas. And they have to bring real cars to the racetrack. And Austin Hill, he's going to get lapped by Sheldon Creed and feel real silly about himself.
Yeah, old Sheldon. But in a serious note, how amazing of a start is Chevrolet out on for the beginning of the season?
Chevrolet. That's never going to end. Yeah, I mean, these Chevrolets are doing a great job. It's been a very long time since Chevrolet, won the first 2 races of a Cup season. And
Dolly.
Yeah, Dolly for sure.
Yeah, they won both truck races, they won both Xfinity races, and now both Cup races.
Was 2001 the last time they won the first 2 races to start a season in Cup with Michael Waltrip and Steve Park?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Yeah, we're gonna have to get a stat guy.
Yeah, the Chevrolets have a rich history, so I'm sure they've accomplished it many times, but the fact that they did it in all 3 series so far is pretty impeccable. It
is, especially with the way Toyota's doubled down in the Cup Series. They've not really seen the fruits of their labors yet, and everything like that. And we had a very long debate about Chevrolet being behind this season, possibly because of the new bodies coming in with the Cup manufacturers, and then they're off to a great start. Yeah, just like it's 2005 all over again. Chevrolet dominance.
Let's clip this and replay it in June when Toyota's spanking everybody.
Yeah, I suppose so. If they are.
Yeah. What were some other drivers that really stood? The race was weird because it was a really good race, a lot of excitement, but like there was no drama. Like even the drivers who wrecked weren't even like pissed off. They all had fun. Yeah. It was like there's and there really isn't a driver that like super to me stands out because everyone was in the mix. There wasn't like, the 2-3 guys that really like stole the show or were real prominent players. Everyone really, how many lead changes was there? Like 6,000 or something like that?
Yeah. I mean, that's a little low. I don't know. It didn't feel like it felt like a little more than that. I mean, just that first stint alone, the broadcast kind of missed it a little bit, but Larson and Kyle Busch just kept swapping the lead back and forth, and then McDowell kind of had it a little bit in between there as well, and that was just a taste of what was about to happen. That's one person you can point out is Kyle Larson, who doesn't have a lot of luck at these tapered spacer races, and he tried. He was out there just wheeling and dealing and trying to figure it out. He said he had a lot of fun, but and in the end, he ended up getting taken out by Brad. I mean, Brad is inevitable, like Thanos or something.
Yeah, Kyle really has a hard time with the old taper spacer racing.
Yeah.
I mean, what was his introduction to back then restrictor plate racing when the Xfinity his first start, when he got flipped into the fence, the whole engine came out? It's pretty much been that every race for him.
For real. Like Denny mentioned it on his podcast, actually, that nobody rivals Kyle Larson in the amount of crashes he's taken at these places. And, that lines up. Kyle Larson's going for it all the time. I just always thought the way he sounded in his interviews that one day he was going to stop like trying so hard and so that he wouldn't take those wrecks. And it looks like he let the excitement get the best of him. He was out front, and every time he had a run, he took that run, and they would slide each other and everything like that. It was cool to see Kyle and the Kyle and Kyle show, first of all. And it was cool to see McDowell run up front a little bit, even though he ended up kind of getting squirrely on pit road. And, that was another incident in the race, like you said.
Oh
And
yeah.
when people got together, the crashes, not only did people not get mad, but the crashes didn't take out a ton of cars all at once. It started to kind of happen throughout the end of the race.
Mhm.
But the big 17 car wreck or whatever they had, all those cars just had like right front damage. Like,
How fucked up was that wreck with Austin or not Austin, William Byron and the 34 car?
yeah. Yeah, that was so weird. He just locked up his brakes, and then they're both sitting there on the apron while cars are zooming
No
by.
caution. And
No
that's
caution. I thought for sure there was going to be a caution. Like,
yeah.
I'm sitting there as a fan trying to call it, like, oh man, this is going to be good. Those cars on pit road, going to keep their lap. And
And that's NASCAR's own demise, honestly, is like they get criticized for being inconsistent. And granted, they got it going, and it was probably the worst time to throw a yellow flag as far as strategy and getting good cars a lap down that doesn't need to be. But they've also thrown a million cautions into per pit cycle. They didn't do it, and it was probably the right call. But the next time when they do throw a caution under a pit cycle that isn't completely necessary, you're due for a conspiracy. And more times than not, it's going to be a situation where like it benefits Chase Elliott or something, and then that just pisses off the other 40% of the NASCAR population.
yeah, and then also we have to deal with the hawk-eyed fans and everybody trying to call out every single instance from there on out as well. Like, this time it occurred with no drama because it happened during that green flag cycle. But like you said, there's going to be a green flag cycle where whoever has their hand on that button decides to hit it one of these times. You're absolutely right. It's a tough part of our sport. Like, the rules and the judgment calls, there's a lot of them. And I don't envy them having to be in that position.
Yeah, well said.
Daddy.
So I was actually texting with one of our good buddies, Corey Ellis. We were talking about how William Byron's car, with that red and black with the yellow numbers, like in small glimpses, kind of looks like the Drive to End Hunger Jeff Gordon car from like whatever year it was, red and black. He's like, yeah, it really makes me sad. Also, he ended up finding the same spot in the wall as Jeff Gordon did in 2015 with that wreck we were just talking about.
Yeah. I thought the same thing during the race, especially once it started to kind of get a little dark and the lights were shining on the car, so you could see that the car was really dark red. I thought the same thing. It's almost like I love seeing all these Jeff schemes on William Byron's car, but like, when does William Byron get to have his own identity? You know what I mean? He's just like, all right, he has a car like Jeff Gordon, but he looks like Ricky Hendrick. But we swear we just found him on iRacing. Don't worry about it. You know what I mean?
So that whole pit road thing that caused that wreck and almost like 5 or 6 other wrecks, I missed why it was happening. But so there's 2 different pit road speeds. Is that what I was gathering?
Well, under green and under, it's kind of confusing in a sense. I believe it was the under green flag pit stops. The commitment cone was on the back stretch. So you weren't trying to dive out of turn 3 and 4 to get on pit road like normal. You had to enter back, kind of similar to how Phoenix is, where it's back off the back stretch. And so under green flag conditions, they made it 90 miles per hour on the apron. That way you wouldn't be going 45 in traffic. So it's 90 on the apron, and then when you get to actual pit road, it was like 55 or 45 miles per hour or whatever. But yeah, a bunch of drivers in a row like didn't know that and jumped on the apron and got down on pit road, and then the people behind them were like, whoa, it's 90. And I had to step, but Denny was one of them, and I believe Ross actually was another one. Or no, I think Ross is the one who had to dive and miss Denny.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I didn't know that either. They probably explained it in pre-race or something, but yeah, I was like, what the hell is going on? Why is there such a variant in speed and pit road entry?
Yeah, I believe Mike Joy brought it up during the last the last pit cycle in between the stages or whatever, and then it just so happened that they had a green flag pit stop during that next run. And yeah. When the cycle started, they mentioned it as well, because they were pitting in like smaller groups. It didn't seem like the whole come out in a pack thing mattered as much. It was more about minimizing time on pit road, make sure you got that 90 instead of 55 or whatever. So it was just like everything else in that race. The pit cycle itself was like unique and different. The way the pack formed back up, or lack thereof, I guess, was super interesting, from my perspective.
Yeah, that is pretty unique. Another weird idea for the Clash.
Okay.
So we run an oval, but on pit stops, you actually have to like cut into the infield, do some kind of chicane. It's a tight course, which is actually what winds you down, but you can take it as fast as you want, and then you come out to pit road and enter at pit road speed.
Okay. This is on like a big track, right?
Yeah, we'll do it at Texas or something.
Okay. Let's just turn Texas into a racing amusement park with like all the stuff we want to try out. Like, I'll stop hating on Texas if you turn it into Tiburon and you do a little infield gymkhana course before you have to hit pit road, and then
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, I don't know, any idea for the Clash is better than not admitting that the Coliseum is like, the Coliseum was cool aesthetically.
Yeah,
and the racing isn't that good. I'm glad we did it, but let's not keep doing it. Let's race backwards and figure eight and do all sorts of crazy shit.
Yeah, I feel like the Clash, let's just go fucking wild.
It's called the Clash. Like, there should be some clashing as well.
They should just make it a go-kart race.
Yeah, like qualifying is determined by a go-kart race, maybe.
Yeah. All right, we'll get off the Clash.
I love the
This
Clash.
could be a 3-hour conversation of nonsense.
Yeah, you're right.
I do have a question for you.
All right.
I didn't watch the pre-race show, admittedly. I'm a shitty NASCAR fan. Instead, I spent my NASCAR time watching a horrible broadcast of the truck race.
Yeah.
But you had messaged me and said something happened to Joey Logano and gloves. Can you give me some insight?
Yeah, so it happened. I found out in a weird order when that all went down. Was the first thing I saw was that he got his gloves taken. They were illegal, but that it was just because they had expired EFI regulations. I don't know what that acronym stands for, but there's safety on everything. That's the safety for the gloves. And then like 10 minutes after that, you find out that the gloves had webbing inside the fingers.
Webbing?
Yeah, webbing.
Like fucking Spider-Man?
Like Spider-Man, yeah. I mean, Joey Logano, like, he's as versatile as sliced bread. So, so he had some webbing in his gloves. So when he puts his hand up against the window net, like they do, they, like, not like Spider-Man, but like this, So he had to block the air. And apparently, I'm not really a believer in this, but apparently blocking the air with your hand is a speed advantage, at least in qualifying. And they, penalty right there. Just random glove penalty. You gotta watch out for those glove penalties.
and it's, I didn't really get to really dig in deep, but I did see that he had to start at the rear of the field, which might have been a blessing, I guess, because half the field director have to start. So
yeah.
The other thing was, I heard in the dark Twitterverse that Daytona qualifying, he allegedly was moving like the window net forward to block air too. I don't know if that's true, but
it was, he grabbed the net itself and tried to.
Yeah, either he was grabbing it or it was like slidable of some sort. But okay. I would assume that's all inspected, so I don't know. That's all hearsay.
It's interesting that they're finding new things to try.
Yeah.
I mean, with the next gen car and everything, we knew that was going to happen. So Joey came back from a lot, though. Like, he ended up, wrecking himself off the nose of Buescher because Joey's a bad blocker, to be perfectly honest. He's a champion. He's won lots of races, but he's a bad blocker.
Yeah.
But despite that, he had to start in the back, and then he had to take a pass through, and that put him 2 laps down. And then lap 2, there was a huge wreck that put him 1 down. You can get 1 back. So he came all the way back, and then, fucked it up for himself and stayed on a stage end, nonetheless. But
Yeah.
everybody gives Ross shit for being a bad blocker, but I feel like Joey's the guy that I see that yellow 22 just crashing a lot.
Man, I just love Ross Chastain though.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't you love Trackhouse?
I came downstairs, put the race on the main TV, and I knew Ross had a pit road penalty of sorts, but I didn't know the extent of it or how that really benefited him other than being in the back of the pack. And I saw him coming down the back straightaway through 3 and 4, and he had a crazy run. And my wife had her AirPods in reading a book, but I was still like commentating to her anyways. And
yeah, as we do.
he's coming out turn 4, and I'm like, man, he's got such a run on Chase Elliott. He's just gonna fucking rail him. And as soon as he got to him, he bumped him in the wrong spot. He went around, and I'm like, I knew it. I told you.
Yeah, that was a wild one.
Yeah.
And, that's exactly what they were doing all day. I'm not really sure what happened there. Honestly, I mean, it was a huge run though, so maybe that's what happened. But
yeah. And
yeah,
and he just always makes such exciting moves. Like, it could be for 15th, but he's like making them. I don't know. Maybe I just never, as a lifetime Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson fan, I guess I never pay attention to 15th. But
yeah.
maybe everyone's always been doing that. But man, he just makes it so much more exciting.
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It's an overused phrase in racing where a driver is really good and he's really talented behind the wheel. Kyle Larson gets this said about him a lot. You can't take your eyes off him because he's always doing something exciting.
Yeah.
Like he's the first driver that's come along where that's like actually true. You know what I mean? Like, if you cut to Ross Chastain, he's doing something. It might be stupid. It might be cool. But like, at the end of the day, he's good television.
Hold on, I got to crack it to another Ross light. We had Steve Weiser's
podcast is filmed in the mountains of Bush on location.
We had Steve Weiser's. Now we have Ross lights. So we talked about Joey's gloves and how crazy that the penalty. He might be getting more penalty. I guess they're gonna come out with that tomorrow. But some other things in the weekend that are penalty worthy, I guess, are the convertible truck in the Craftsman Truck Series.
Yeah.
How wild was that?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I didn't catch it at first because I had the broadcast muted. You actually texted me and said, like, hey, the broadcast is bad. I was like, yeah, I got it muted.
It's so bad.
It's so bad. I don't want to disrespect Jamie Little or Phil Parsons or Michael Waltrip because I respect them all individually.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't know. There's something off. Anyway, the convertible truck. Yeah, apparently, you could see that the windshield was bowing, and you could see that something was going on, and then eventually the air caught underneath that thing. And they were, they got to Vegas a little early. They were doing a Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas reference. Yeah, that was wild.
You know that they were doing something illegal. Like, that for that to happen, they were trying to push something. I mean, the Truck Series last year, I don't watch truck racing typically, but when KFB's in the show, you gotta tune in.
Yeah, naturally.
But wasn't there a lot of penalties last year in the Truck Series with like window bowing and some other bullshit?
Absolutely. And then Harvick had some as well. Harvick had some in the Cup Series, I believe, in one of the races. So,
okay.
So another new thing they're trying is breakaway pieces.
Yeah. So speaking of Kevin Harvick, how many times can Stewart-Haas get caught cheating in reasonable fashion and they still can't win a damn race?
I know.
They haven't won a race in 2 years almost? Well, other than like 1 or 2 here and there. But
Harvick stole some wins.
Yeah.
That second to last season of his, or whatever it was, I think. Or was that last year? I don't know.
Honestly, I think the last win was the Bacon car, whoever drove that.
The Bacon car, I don't know. Some professional bowler. You know what I mean? Yeah, I don't know. Stewart-Haas sucks. You know what I mean? I grew up a Tony Stewart fan, but there's no other way to put it. Like, we're not the most friendly podcast. We're just a couple of guys. Like, we can say how we feel. You know what I mean? A couple of fans. We earned it. So, I don't know. we know everybody's out there trying stuff. We know everybody's trying to gain an edge, gain an advantage somehow, and everything like that. But Stewart-Haas is the only one that seems to get caught as often as they get caught. Like,
yeah, with no benefits being reaped.
Yeah, and you can kind of tell that they're pretty far away from finding something that's actually going to work because they didn't put it on the 4 car or the 14 car.
Well, they might have, but they probably, once those other cars went through tech, they probably took them off. Whatever it was, I don't even know what it was. Who cares?
Yeah, it was something about a roof rail.
Oh yeah,
it's that Dover race from 2005 all over again. I'm sure the shocks will bleed out and everything will be fine. You know what I mean?
It's like Hendrick gets busted with like the louvers, but at least they're fast as fuck. Like Haas
and they
is like
often release some sort of explanation. You know what I mean? And they'll be like, "Well, we thought just we asked NASCAR, they didn't open our email." You know,
like
I don't know.
And Stewart-Haas, and they cheat all the time, which I'm sure everyone does to an extent, but they never show any more speed from it. Like, how far off are they if they're cheating and still run 28th every week?
For real. Yeah, I don't get it at all. I don't know. Maybe there's some contentiousness between Tony Stewart and NASCAR still. There had to be repercussions for talking so much shit every time you got out of a car. So, I don't know. Yeah, it'd be nice. They got a real likable driver lineup in a sense. But at the same time, there's not a driver on that lineup that I say can just, other than Josh Berry, maybe it's going to be a future Cup champion or even win multiple races or anything like that. That they all seem like the kind of guys that are going to steal a cup. It's like they got 4 Eric Almirola's. You know what I mean? I don't know.
That's not good.
No, I mean, he's solid, but you got to have one Kevin Harvick at least. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I don't know. Yeah. I feel like if they're going to have anyone who prevails throughout the year, I feel like it will be Josh Berry. I feel like he's the only one with any kind of actual potential they all have potential, but I feel like he's the only one who's going to really stand out above the rest of the other team drivers.
Yeah, I agree. Chase Briscoe, obviously, you saw it in Sunday's race. Chase Briscoe, if you give him a good car, he's going to go up there and he's going to wreck himself in delightful fashion at least or something. You know what I mean? But dude,
Clint Boyer was talking so much shit on Chase Briscoe. Yeah. Like, look at this ass clown. He's coming here. He can't even turn. He's just going to hit everybody. He did that for about.
If I was driving that car, I would be doing a much better job.
He's like, he just kept talking so much trash on him that eventually he wrecked. And he's like, I told you, he's a jackass.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair, he's right.
he's not wrong. Usually he is, but in this case, not.
Yeah. Yeah, again, as a Suarez fan, I was really nervous about that. And then Briscoe just barely missed him. And, took out a bunch of contenders, so I was pretty happy about it.
Yeah, it was capping the weekend off. I think it was phenomenal.
Yeah, I can't complain.
One of the best NASCAR races I've watched in a long time.
Absolutely. I've got the diecast. I heard this just before we logged in. I pre-ordered the Race Wind 124 version of the diecast, and it's coming with the taco on the windshield. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Darling. Yeah, hell yeah. I couldn't be happier. Like, I'm never gonna get over it.
Yeah, it was spectacular, and I don't want to beat you to the punch, but the Race Win merch is available.
Oh, okay. Yeah, got some more pre-ordering to do tonight. Yeah.
I saw it on NASCAR Twitter.
Okay.
So we know what you're doing today.
But, I saw a quote from Suarez right before I was just scrolling Reddit right before I logged in. He said, this is only the beginning. This is only the beginning. So, that takes us to next week. Daniel Suarez won this week. Next week, we're going to Las Vegas for, some non-tapered spacer racing. Some spacer racing. You know what I mean? Open spacer racing. Or I guess you just call it racing. All right, so looking forward to Vegas. Probably the Pennzoil 400, I think.
Yeah,
I
probably.
can just guess. It's always the Pennzoil or Quaker State 400 at Vegas.
Mhm.
So what do you think? What do you think is going to go down next week, and who do you think is going to win?
Well, I think you're going to have some good old-fashioned 1.5 comers and goers. No more sucker holes.
Yeah.
No more bumping and grinding. I think I just have this weird feeling that nothing to base this on. Obviously, they have a new car. They did have decent 1.5 speed last year, but I just had this weird gut feeling that Brad Keselowski's finally gonna get that win. He's going into triple digits now on no wins. So I think as much as I don't want to see his dumb face, I think Brad Keselowski. I feel like he's finally gonna come through. At least it'll be a Roush Fenway Keselowski Incorporated LLC car is gonna win that thing. But I think it'll be Brad.
Okay. That's not a bad pick. Everybody's entitled to their opinion, even if it's wrong. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know. I'd love to see a Brad win. I think, I've always had a soft spot for Brad. Like, ever since he almost killed Carl Edwards that one time. You know what I mean?
I think, before you do your pick, I think Brad Keselowski is entering that phase that a lot of great drivers, not that he's great, but he's respectable for sure. But a lot of great drivers go through where, everybody hated Jeff Gordon and then they loved him. And not everybody hated Tony Stewart, but he had a good amount of haters.
Yeah,
and then everybody loved him. Dale Jr., same thing. JB Johnson, now people are starting to like him again. I feel like Brad Keselowski's kind of going through that phase where if he won, it would be pretty accepted by the whole community of NASCAR.
I agree. Yeah. And it sucks because it's all about how little you win. Like Brad, he left Penske and went to a team that was looked at as a little bit smaller or less resources, or obviously, we all know what Roush has gone through. But yeah, the less you win, the more people are like, oh man, wouldn't it be cool though? You're right. King's Hawaiian Rolls as a sponsor doesn't hurt either. You know what I mean? Like my wife, 99 over here, fucking sends me a picture every single day since Valentine's Day because I must have fucked up at Valentine's Day, and it's a bouquet of just King's Hawaiian Rolls covered in butter. She shows me that and is like, I wish you got me this. And then she shows me every single day, like, wouldn't it be great?
Hey, you know what do you have to do for next year?
Yeah. She can wait till next year to get some proper buttered rolls. You know what I mean? No, I'd love to pick the 99 again and go back to back and everything like that. But I think that it being the first 1.5 miles of the year, it's Las Vegas specifically, which has been one of the earlier, it used to be preceded by California, I believe it was, Fontana. But I think it's going to be Kyle Larson. I think we're just going to see a routine down there. There's going to be drama. Imagine laughing at someone picking Kyle Larson. The prodigy, the kid. Like no one's ever seen a guy drive a car before. It's like everything Kyle Larson does is next level, I don't know. I think it's going to be Kyle Larson.
Not surprised about anything. Congratulations.
Okay, I'm done.
Hey, I stand by my pick. You know what I mean?
All right.
We'll see what happens.
Yeah, I don't see it.
Get a little more competitive this week. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I don't think you're right, but
it's weird we picked Brad and Larson. They're the ones they were both involved in that wreck, trying to work together in Atlanta. I had a feeling,
We're just gonna head into our new game now.
All right, let's hit it.
What did he say?
I'm coming. Oh, never mind.
What did he say?
McMurray got pounded.
What did he say?
I haven't seen this much adolescent bumping and grinding since the prom.
Our whole show could probably just be those. Like, those are so good. They're probably better than the actual content.
Yeah, this content's horrible.
Oh, no.
Hold on, I got one for you. Hold on here.
We're just gonna hold it like we're doing my interview.
Standing O's.
Yeah, we're just gonna hold it like we're NASCAR on Fox. I'm Regan Smith. I'm on the On the Pole podcast. And I'm here to tell you what Yeah, that's a good lead-in, I guess, for the game we're gonna play. We're about to play a quote game, just like we played last week. For the 3 people listening, you get to have a back-to-back
Hi, Mom.
consistent experience. Yeah. So what we're gonna do is we're both gonna read a quote, and then the other person's got to guess who said that quote. And we don't know in advance who picked who and what quotes are what. We could even have the same quotes. But the idea is to try to trick the other person and fool the other person and win meaningless points, or not points. It's all about wins and losses, really. It's a pass-fail thing here. So
Well, let's get into it. What do you got, Earl?
yeah. All right. So yeah, since last week last week we did 3 questions and you got me on all 3 because I wasn't prepared and it wasn't a game we both got to play. All right. So here's the quote. I was getting nailed from behind. I don't know.
No fucking way. You stole it.
I even asked you specifically.
This is not the one I thought that you stole.
Oh, okay. We probably, we've been watching racing. We've known each other for tons of years. Our papers are probably identical. All right, so obviously you know who said that then, huh? So take the point.
Well, I know who said it. It was Martin Truex Jr. He said, I was getting nailed from behind, so I don't know. And that's kind of like prison. Either get pounded or be pounded.
Hey. Yeah, I don't know. What it's like to be in prison. I spent some time in the Army.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
thing.
Thursdays, it sounds a lot like a Thursday.
All right. So I got one for you then.
All right.
It's like going to a haunted house. It's fun, but I'm kind of scared for my life at the same time.
Oh, man. Well, I kind of remember this. I actually was paying attention to the race the whole way because I believed in it. So he was leading at the time. Was it Todd Gilliland?
It was Todd Gilliland.
All right. Yeah. Todd Gilliland had a hell of a week,
But, going through a haunted house and having fun and being scared for your life at the same time, that's kind of like living in Biden's America.
Thank you all. God bless you all. Let's go lick the world. Let's get it done.
Oh, man.
You got another one for me?
Lick? Did he say lick the world?
He said lick. Let's go lick the world. Let's get after it, buddy.
Oh, my goodness. Okay. I mean, he is the president. I'm just going to go ahead and,
gotta respect.
I'm gonna take that advice in stride, I guess. All right. I run well, but I finish like ass, and I'm sick of it.
All right. Run well, but I finish like ass, and I'm sick of it. I'm gonna say Joey Logano.
I don't have the sound, but
I don't even think I do either.
No, it was Denny Hamlin.
Denny Hamlin.
I heard the lead on that one because all of my preparation for this podcast came from Denny Hamlin's podcast.
We're just riding the coattails.
Yeah, I mean, hey, it's good. It's not going to get us a championship or anything like that, but we might be a respectable, week to week podcast.
But Denny Hamlin, he may run like ass, but isn't he the one who licks ass?
Yeah, he's just doing what the nation asked him. Everything is country.
No, I really think he does. Didn't that come out?
No, I mean, if you believe the court transcript,
the Twitter files.
There's a leak. I don't know. If you believe the leak of the leak,
Yeah.
And yeah.
He ended up getting engaged to that woman after all that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Dale.
So now Jordan Fish has 1 ring and Denny has none.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like Denny wears a ring, but it's not on his finger. Hold on.
Oh boy.
Oh, wrong one.
I like that one. Yeah, that was good. All right, you got another one?
I don't. I suck. I'm a piece of shit.
Oh, did we already do 2?
We did 2. Yeah.
I just got the first one wrong. That's what it was, right?
Yep. Well,
Yeah.
do you have another one?
I did. I just didn't write it down.
Oh, well, we both suck.
So yeah, we both suck. You know what I mean? It was a tough week because they didn't do a ton of media like they did for the Daytona 500, and then on top of that, the race was pretty routine. Like everyone pretty much got out of their car and was like, "Well, that was a lot of fun. Like, I just want to do it again. I don't care." Like, how do you have a 17-car wreck and nobody's like, "Dude, fuck that guy"? You know what I mean?
Well, the thing was, the wrecks were big. Not even always big, but there were some big wrecks. But not a lot of people were completely damaged and out of it either. Like a lot of them still ran.
And that ended up being what contributed to some repeat wrecks later. I mean, not just obviously there was a lot of aggression and everything like that, but it just gets heated up out there. And all those other cars, like I feel like once you go through a wreck and you fix the car up and you make it back up front, you're on borrowed time. And half the field was like that. Before the last restart, they said there was only 3 cars that hadn't been involved in a wreck or something like that.
Yeah. That list kept shrinking as the race.
I'm not sure that the list existed when the race was like over, probably.
So all in all, tapered spacer racing 2 weeks in a row. It was awesome.
Yep.
But I am a little excited to see some regular 1.5 slipping and sliding comers and goers, fuel mileage, the whole thing, the whole bit, as you would like to say.
Yeah. Look at that. You went the whole episode without saying the whole bit. And I think I went the whole episode without saying goodness. Oh goodness.
Oh goodness.
Oh goodness. I just couldn't handle it.
No.
Yeah. I'm like soft DW. Like, oh goodness.
Oh jeez.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right.
It was an amazing race, and I'm tapered spacer racing. But you're right. Like, I'm excited to get to Vegas and get my stage 2 nap back. You know what I mean? Like, you get it all off season. I can't sleep without some like hum of a boring race happening in the background.
Yeah.
Like a just nice, relaxed, boring race. Honestly.
So next week's content will just be stage 3 only.
Yeah, because it's gonna break out in stage 3. Like, well, I don't know what happened. Didn't it just go black for the whole middle section for you too? Yeah.
All right, dude.
Yeah.
We really got to get some play out music here.
Yeah, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I want it to be similar to somebody saying, like, you can't use our podcast without the express written consent of like,
that's good.
Not us, but somebody.
The rights to On the Pole podcast are officially licensed and recommended by your doctor.
Yeah, or there are no rights to our podcast because there's only lefts on a NASCAR podcast. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's it. That'll be the official. We'll have a graphic and everything for next week. So until then, we'll see everybody next week.
Later.
Peace.
Dale.
Hold on.
Dale.
All right. 9-9.